Hello friends, you can log on to primeaptacademy.com to access complete free video courses. So this is a question from CAT 2007 exam. It says, answer the following question based on the information given below. A health drink company's R&D department is trying to make various diet formulations which can be used for certain specific purposes. It is considering a choice of 5 alternative ingredients O, P, Q, R and S which can be used in different proportions in the formulations. The table below gives the composition of these ingredients. The cost per unit of these ingredients is O costs 150, P 50, Q 200, R 500 and S is 100. This is cost per unit. So this is the composition. Ingredient O has 50% carbohydrates, 30% protein, 10% fat, 10% minerals. Similarly, the table is made with compositions for each of the ingredients. Now we look at the questions. Question says, for a recuperating patient, the doctor recommended a diet containing 10% minerals. So it is 10% minerals, M, and at least 30% protein. So protein, so first of all, mineral M equals 10% and protein P is greater than 30% or equal to 30%. Okay, at least 30% means either equal to 30% or more than that. In how many different ways this diet can be prepared? By mixing at least 2 ingredients. So over here, if I look at minerals, I have to mix at least 2 ingredients. So if you look at it, to get 10% minerals, there's only possibilities if I mix this and this. Okay, so I have to mix O and Q and they have to be mixed in equal proportion, because only then 10 and 10 mixed in equal proportion will give me 10% minerals. Okay, or like if they are, even though they are not mixed in equal proportion, still they'll give me 10% minerals, because O and Q both have 10% and 10% minerals, and protein is 30 and 30 for both of them. So whatever proportion I mix O and Q, I will get 30% protein. So I'm getting at least 30% protein, but I'll get exactly 10% minerals. If you make any other combination, like if you say you take this 10 and 5, if you mix these, the percentage of mineral will lie between 10 and 5. It will not be equal to 10. For it to be equal to 10, these two have to be mixed. Only the possibility is O and Q. So only one possibility is there. So answer option 1 is the correct answer here. Okay. Now we look at the next question. It says, which among the following is the formulation having the lowest cost per unit for a diet having 10% fat, so fat is equal to 10%, and at least 30% protein. So protein is greater than or equal to 30%. The diet has to be formed by mixing 2 ingredients. So only 2 ingredients have to be mixed. So if you look at option by option, P and Q. First of all, if it is P and Q here, so P fat is 0%, Q fat is 50%. Okay, so that means to get a 10% fat with this combination of P and Q, so I have to get 10% fat. So in that case, exactly 10% fat, that means Q is 50% here. So we have to take 1/5 of Q, 1/5 of Q, and you have to add the remaining 4/5 of P. Alright, because 1/5 of 50 is 10, 4/5 of 0 is 0. So 10% fat, that is how you'll get. And you have to get protein also. So what is protein here? 1/5 of 30 for Q, 1/5 of 30 is 6 plus 4/5 of 20. So 4/5 of 20 is 5, 4s are 24. So it comes out to be 22. So it comes out with 22. Protein is not coming out to be greater than equal to 30. So it is not possible, because here when I make fat as 10%, protein is coming out to be less than 30%. Okay. Then P and S. If you take P and S, P has 0% fat, S has 0% fat. So if I mix them in any proportion, fat will remain 0. So what this means is P and S is not possible, because 0% fat and 0% fat ingredients, if you mix, you will get 0% fat. You will not get 10% fat. So P and S is ruled out. Then P and R. P and R. So P is 0% fat, R is 40% fat. So to get this, I'll take 1/4 of R plus 3/4 remains, which is P. That will give me 10% fat, because 1/4 of 40 plus 3/4 of 0. So I'll apply the same logic for protein now. Then 1/4 of R, which is 1/4 of 50, 1/4 of 50, 50 by 2 is 20, this is 12.5, plus 3/4 of 20, so 3/4 into 20, that means 15. So 12.5 plus 15, that is 27.5. So if I mix them in this ratio 1/4 and 3/4, for fat to be 10%, protein is coming out to be 27.5% for P and R. So that means P and R is also not possible, because protein has to be greater than or equal to 30%. Now I am left with two options. Q and S is the first one, and then R and S. So we'll look at Q and S. So now Q has how much fat? Q has 50% fat. S has 0% fat. That means if I mix Q and S, 1/5 of Q has to be taken. That will make it 10% of fat, and the remaining 4/5 has to be S. So it will be 1/5 into 50, which is 10, 4/5 into 0. So fat comes out to be 10. Now I'll apply the same logic for protein for Q and S. So it will be 1/5 of 30, 1/5 of 30 plus 4/5 of 50, 1/5 of 30 plus 4/5 of 50, correct? This 5 ones are 5 6 are 30, 5 ones are 5 10s are. So this is 6 plus 40, which is 46. So Q and S, this is a possibility that I can get a fat equal to 10% and P greater than 30%. But how is it possible that they are mixed in the ratio 1:4? Because 1/5 upon 4/5 is 1:4. So 1 unit of Q and 4 units of S. So what is the cost of that first? Because we have to find the minimum cost option. So 1 unit of Q costs 200. 4 unit of S, 1 unit of S is 100. So 4 unit of S is 400. So 200 plus 400 is 600. Okay, so let me write the cost here. So this is possible with a cost of 600. Now finally we have to check for R and S. So I'll make a check for R and S. So now if you look at it, for R and S, to get exactly 10% fat, R is 40% fat, S is 0% fat. So it will be 1/4 into R, which is 10%. The remaining 3/4 will be S. So fat comes out to be how much? 1/4 into 40, which is 10, plus 3/4 into 0. So 10 plus 0 is 10. So I am getting 10% fat. What will be the protein? Protein in both is 50. So in whatever ratio you mix, protein will come out to be 50. So protein is also coming out greater than or equal to 30. But they are now mixed in the ratio 1:3. So you are getting 1 unit of R 1 unit, and S 3 units. Now let me find the cost of it. R 1 unit is 500, S 3 units, S 1 unit is 100, so 3 units is 300. So 500 plus 300 is 800. Okay, so over here this is also possible, but with a cost of 800. So which of them is the least cost? There are only two possibilities that were giving me this scenario. One of them is costing 600, other is 800. So least cost is 600. So answer option 4, Q and S is the correct answer. Okay, we look at the next question now. Okay, so this question says, in what proportion P, Q and S should be mixed to make a diet having at least 60% carb, at lowest cost? Okay, so at least 60% carb you have to get from P, Q and S. Is it P, Q and S? Yeah, P, Q and S. I have the options, so what I'll do is I'll also work through the options then. So if you look at it, P has 80% carb, Q has 10% carb, S has 45% carb. So now if you look at it, if you have to get 60% carb at least, means it has to be 60% or greater than that, then P has to be very large in comparison to Q and S, because 60% is very close to 80%. Alright, so P has to contribute a lot of value to it. Now if I look at the costs, P is 50, Q is 200, S is 100. So my question now becomes very simple to me. It says least cost we have to find. P has to be largest and it has to be least cost. So if you look at it in the ratio in terms of percentage options, this is 213, this is 214. So P is 2, Q is 1, R is 3 in the first option, and in this option 214. If you look at it over here, even though if you look this P, Q and R, I'll just P, Q and S, sorry, P, Q and S, here S has the highest, so this is ruled out. Here also S has the highest, so it is ruled out. Here also S has the highest, so it is ruled out. Now I have two options left, 412 and 411. P is the highest in both of them, but in terms of percentage value, P is more higher in 5, because other options are only given 1 and 1. Here the other options are getting 1 and 2 in the ratio. Okay, so P has to be highest in terms of percentage amount. Here if you find the percentage of P, it will be 4 divided by 7 into 100. If you find the percentage of P here, it will be 4 divided by 6 into 100. So 4 divided by 6 into 100 is more than 4 divided by 7 into 100. So P has a much higher value here. Why we have to take P as higher value in terms of percentage? Because P is the cheapest. Okay, so answer option 5 will be the correct answer. That will give you the lowest cost. Okay, so that's how you solve this one. Now we'll look at the next question. So the next question, this is the last question here. It says the company is planning to launch a balanced diet required for growth needs of adolescent children. This diet must contain at least 30% of carbohydrate and protein. So carbohydrate and protein has to be at least 30%, means greater than or equal to 30%. No more than 25% fat. So that means fat is less than or equal to 25%. And at least 5% minerals. So minerals has to be greater than or equal to 5%. Which are the following combinations of equally mixed? So they are equally mixed ingredients is possible. O and P if I take, if it is equally mixed, that means these percentage, if I mix them, the mixture will have exactly in between. So now, what do I need? Mineral to be at least 5%. O and P, the first option. O and P, mineral is exactly 5% in between, that is true. Carbohydrate is more than 50 and 80 if I take the average. So it is definitely more than 30. Is it 30? Yeah, it is more than 30. Protein is also, protein has to be more than 30 and fat has. So protein over here is not more than 30, because if I mix them equally, protein will come out 25. 30 plus 20 is 50, 50 by 2 is 25, because they are equally mixed. Okay, so O and P is ruled out. Then R and S. I'll check for mineral, carbohydrate, protein and then fat. R and S. R and S, mineral is 5 and 5, so you get at least 5. Then carbohydrate is 5 plus 45 is 50 by 2 is 25, so it is ruled out, because carbohydrate also has to be greater than or equal to 30. So R and S is ruled out. Then P and S. P and S. P and S if I take, this is 0 here, mineral, and it is 5 here. So 0 and 5, if you do, it will be 2.5% minerals. So it is also ruled out. Then Q and R. Then Q and R. So let me rub this off. Q mineral is 10, R mineral is 5. Yeah, if you mix them, it will be 7.5. Carbohydrate, it will not work because it is 10 and 5. You need at least 30% of carb also. So Q and R is also ruled out. So that means only fifth option remains, so it has to be the right answer, O and S. But let me check for you. So O and S, if we do O and S, O has 10% mineral, S has 5% mineral, so mineral content will be 7.5. Carbohydrate is 50 and 45, so it will be more than 30. Protein is 30 and 50, so in between is 40, it will be more than 30. Fat is 10 and 0, so fat is 5, which is less than 25. So all the parameters work in this option. So O and S, answer option 5 is the right answer. Alright, so that is all about this set.